The morning sun cast long shadows across the Afghan mountainside as Navy SEAL Team 7 prepared for what intelligence suggested would be a routine reconnaissance mission. Among the team was Hospital Corpsman Second Class Sarah Martinez, a 26-year-old medic from San Antonio, Texas, who had joined the Navy 4 years earlier with dreams of saving lives on the battlefield. Sarah checked her medical kit one final time, ensuring every bandage, morphine syringe, and piece of emergency equipment was properly secured. Her fellow SEALs had come to respect her dedication and skill over the past 18 months of deployment. She had already saved 3 lives during their previous operations, earning the nickname Angel from the team. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison, the team leader, gathered the 8-person squad around a tactical map spread across a wooden crate. The mission seemed straightforward. Establish an observation post on Hill 437 to monitor suspected Taliban movement in the valley below. Intelligence reports indicated minimal enemy presence in the area, making it an ideal location for gathering crucial information about supply routes. The team moved out just after dawn, their boots crunching softly on the rocky terrain as they made their way up the mountain path. Sarah carried her standard medical gear along with an M4 carbine, though her primary role remained focused on keeping her teammates alive and healthy. The weight of responsibility never left her shoulders, knowing that in combat situations, she might be the difference between life and death for any member of her team. As they climbed higher, the landscape became increasingly barren and unforgiving. The temperature dropped noticeably, and the thin mountain air made each step more challenging. Sarah maintained her position in the middle of the formation, constantly scanning her teammates for any signs of fatigue or injury that might compromise the mission. 2 hours into their ascent, they reached the designated observation point. The SEALs quickly established a defensive perimeter, while Morrison and his radio operator set up communication equipment. Sarah found herself a position behind a large boulder, where she could monitor the team while maintaining a clear view of potential approach routes. The valley below stretched for miles, dotted with small villages and winding dirt roads that served as crucial supply lines for insurgent forces. Through her binoculars, Sarah could see farmers tending to their fields, children playing near mud brick houses, and the occasional vehicle moving along the dusty paths. It appeared peaceful, almost serene from their elevated position. Morrison's voice crackled through their communication system as he reported their successful arrival to base command. The team settled in for what was expected to be a long day of observation and intelligence gathering. Sarah used the quiet moments to check on each team member, ensuring proper hydration and monitoring for any signs of altitude sickness or other medical concerns. Staff Sergeant Mike Chen, the team's designated marksman, positioned himself near the edge of their observation post with his M110 semi-automatic sniper system. He had earned his reputation as one of the finest shooters in the Navy, capable of making precise shots at distances exceeding 800 meters. Sarah often watched him work, impressed by his calm demeanor and unwavering focus under pressure. As the morning progressed into afternoon, the team maintained strict radio silence except for scheduled check-ins with their base. Sarah found herself studying the surrounding terrain, noting potential medical evacuation routes and identifying locations where she could establish treatment areas if the situation deteriorated. Her medical training had taught her to always think several steps ahead, preparing for scenarios that hopefully would never occur. The peaceful atmosphere was suddenly shattered when Chen's voice cut through their radio silence with urgent intensity. Through his scope, he had spotted a large group of armed insurgents moving through the valley below, far more than intelligence had suggested would be in the area. The relaxed observation mission was about to become something much more dangerous, and Sarah felt her heart rate increase as she prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. Morrison immediately moved to Chen's position, raising his own binoculars to assess the situation developing in the valley below. What he saw made his blood run cold. At least 40 armed fighters were moving in coordinated groups toward one of the villages they had been observing. These weren't random insurgents. Their movement patterns and equipment suggested a well-organized force preparing for a significant operation. Sarah crawled closer to hear Morrison's hushed conversation with Chen about the developing situation. Through the scope, they could see the insurgents carrying rocket-propelled grenades, heavy machine guns, and what appeared to be improvised explosive devices. The peaceful farming village that had seemed so tranquil just hours earlier was about to become a battleground. The team leader made a critical decision that would change everything. Rather than maintaining their observation role, Morrison determined they had to intervene. Intelligence reports had indicated the village housed several Afghan military personnel and their families who were working with coalition forces. Allowing them to be overrun would not only result in civilian casualties but could provide valuable intelligence to enemy forces. Morrison's voice was steady but urgent as he contacted their base to report the situation and request immediate air support. The response was devastating. No aircraft were available for at least 90 minutes due to ongoing operations in other sectors. The small SEAL team was completely on their own, facing overwhelming odds with limited ammunition and no possibility of reinforcement. Sarah felt her medical training kick into overdrive as she began mentally preparing for mass casualty scenarios. She inventoried her supplies again, calculating how many wounded she could potentially treat with her current equipment. The standard medical kit that had seemed adequate for a reconnaissance mission now felt woefully insufficient for what was about to unfold. Chen adjusted his position to get a better angle on the advancing insurgents. His calm professionalism remained intact, but Sarah could see the tension in his shoulders as he calculated distances and wind conditions for what would likely be extremely challenging shots. The range to the village was near the maximum effective distance for his rifle, requiring perfect precision under combat conditions. The first shots rang out from the valley as the insurgents began their assault on the village. Morrison made another critical decision, ordering his team to provide support fire from their elevated position. Sarah watched as her teammates transformed from observers into active combatants, their training taking over as they prepared to engage a force that outnumbered them 5-1. Petty Officer Rodriguez, the team's communications specialist, worked frantically to coordinate with the village defenders while maintaining contact with their base. The radio chatter revealed the desperate situation below. The Afghan forces were quickly being overwhelmed and had already taken casualties. Women and children were trapped in buildings as the insurgents advanced through the village streets. Sarah's role was about to expand beyond anything she had trained for. As the team's medic, she needed to keep her fellow SEALs alive and combat-ready. But the situation in the village meant civilian casualties were mounting by the minute. Her medical oath to do no harm conflicted with the tactical reality that she might need to take lives to save others. Chen's rifle cracked sharply as he engaged the first target, an insurgent carrying an RPG who was positioning himself to destroy one of the village's defensive positions. The shot was perfect, neutralizing the threat from over 700 meters away. Sarah watched through her binoculars as Chen methodically engaged priority targets, his shots precise and deadly effective. The return fire came almost immediately. Bullets began impacting the rocks around their position as the insurgents identified the sniper's location on the hillside. Morrison ordered the team to shift positions while maintaining suppressive fire. Sarah found herself moving tactically for the first time in combat, her medical equipment weighing her down as she tried to keep pace with her teammates. During the movement, disaster struck. A well-aimed shot from the valley below found its mark, and Chen suddenly collapsed behind his rifle. Sarah's medical training overrode everything else as she rushed to his position, ignoring the bullets whining overhead. The sight that greeted her was devastating. Chen had taken a direct hit to his shooting shoulder, effectively ending his ability to provide the precision fire that was keeping the village defenders alive. Sarah's hands moved with practiced efficiency as she assessed Chen's wound. The bullet had shattered his right shoulder blade and damaged crucial muscle groups, making it impossible for him to maintain the steady aim required for precision shooting. Blood soaked through his uniform as she applied pressure bandages and administered morphine for pain management. Chen's face was pale with shock, but his eyes remained focused on the chaos unfolding in the village below. Through gritted teeth, he managed to speak to Sarah. "The rifle. Someone needs to take the shots. Village won't last another 10 minutes without sniper support." His breathing was labored, but his concern was entirely focused on completing the mission rather than his own injury. Morrison crawled over to their position, his face grim as he assessed both Chen's condition and the deteriorating tactical situation. Radio reports from the village indicated that Afghan forces had lost 2 defensive positions and were rapidly running out of ammunition. The insurgents were systematically destroying buildings and had begun executing captured defenders. Sarah looked at Chen's M110 rifle lying beside his injured form. She had basic familiarity with the weapon from her combat training, but operating it at extended ranges under combat conditions was completely different from shooting at paper targets during qualification courses. The precision required for effective sniper work demanded skills she had never developed. The weight of the moment crashed down on her as Morrison spoke quietly. "Sarah, you're the only one with any experience on that rifle system. Rodriguez and Williams are suppressing with their M4s, but we need someone making precision shots to break up their assault. Teams." The implication was clear. She was being asked to transition from saving lives to taking them. Chen's voice was weak but insistent as he began, explaining the rifle's scope settings and environmental factors affecting long-range shooting. Wind is coming from the southeast at about 8 miles per hour. Temperature drop affects bullet trajectory. Aim for center mass on moving targets. His professional instruction continued even as Sarah worked to stabilize his medical condition. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she positioned herself behind the rifle. The scope's magnification brought the village battle into sharp detail, revealing the full horror of what was happening below. She could see insurgents moving between buildings, muzzle flashes from their weapons and bodies lying motionless in the dusty streets. The human cost of this engagement was becoming devastatingly clear. Her first target presented itself as an insurgent with an RPG moved into position to destroy the village's main defensive structure. Sarah controlled her breathing, just as Chen had instructed, and slowly squeezed the trigger. The rifle's recoil surprised her, and she watched through the scope as her shot impacted 2 feet to the left of her intended target. Chen's coaching voice guided her through the necessary adjustments. Compensate for wind drift. Aim right edge of target. Control your breathing pattern. Sarah made the corrections and fired again. This time her shot found its mark, and the insurgent with the RPG fell to the ground, his weapon clattering uselessly beside him. The psychological impact of taking her first life hit Sarah immediately, but she forced herself to focus on the mission. More targets were presenting themselves, and the village defenders were still in desperate need of sniper support. She located another priority target, an insurgent directing assault teams from behind a low wall. Her second shot was more confident, and the target dropped immediately. Sarah was beginning to understand the rhythm of precision shooting under combat conditions. Each shot required complete focus, blocking out the chaos around her while maintaining awareness of changing tactical conditions. The medical training that had taught her to remain calm under pressure was serving her well in this unexpected role. Morrison's voice came through her headset with updates from the village. "Excellent shooting. Angel, you've broken up their main assault. Keep engaging priority targets." The encouragement helped steady her nerves as she searched for her next shot opportunity. Sarah continued engaging targets methodically, her confidence growing with each successful shot. The insurgent advance had stalled as their leaders were systematically eliminated by her precision fire. However, she could see enemy fighters attempting to flank the village from multiple directions, and her ammunition supply was limited. The battle reached a critical turning point as Sarah identified a new threat that would change everything. Through her scope, she spotted insurgent reinforcements approaching the village from the north. Another 20 fighters carrying heavy weapons and what appeared to be suicide vests. The original 40-person assault force was being reinforced, creating an impossible situation for the defending Afghan forces. Sarah's mind raced as she calculated the tactical implications. Even with her sniper support, the village defenders couldn't withstand an assault from 60 armed insurgents. The civilian population would be massacred, and valuable intelligence assets would be captured or killed. She needed to do something decisive to shift the momentum of the battle. Chen, despite his severe injury, continued providing tactical guidance from his position behind cover. His experience as a sniper allowed him to read the battlefield and identify the most critical targets. "Sarah, see the group leader with the radio on the hill to the east? Take him out and their coordination falls apart." His voice was strained with pain, but his professional focus remained sharp. Sarah acquired the target Chen had identified, a bearded man in darker clothing who was clearly directing the insurgent movements through radio communications. The shot would be challenging, requiring her to engage a target at nearly 800 meters while accounting for elevation, changes in wind conditions that had shifted. Since her previous shots, she adjusted her scope settings based on Chen's continued instruction, took a deep breath and squeezed the trigger. The shot was perfect, and the insurgent commander dropped immediately. Almost instantly, Sarah could observe the confusion spreading through the enemy ranks as their coordinated assault began to break down. Without central leadership, Morrison's voice crackled through the radio with urgent information. Air support inbound in 30 minutes. We need to hold this position and keep pressure on the assault teams. The promise of eventual air support provided hope, but 30 minutes was an eternity in combat time. Sarah would need to continue her precision shooting to prevent the village from being overrun. The insurgents began adapting to the sniper threat, using smoke grenades and moving in smaller groups to make targeting more difficult. Sarah found herself playing a deadly game of cat and mouse, waiting for clear shot opportunities while the enemy tried to identify and eliminate her position. Return fire was becoming more accurate as they zeroed in on the SEAL team's location. Rodriguez called out a new threat. Heavy machine gun team setting up on the south ridge. They'll have clear fields of fire on the village and our position. Sarah swung her scope toward the indicated location and spotted 3 insurgents assembling a PKM machine gun that would devastate both the village, defenders, and potentially eliminate her team. The machine gun crew was partially concealed behind rocks, making precise shots extremely difficult. Sarah would need to wait for one of them to expose himself sufficiently for a clean shot. Time was running out as the crew worked methodically to position their weapon for maximum effectiveness against the village. Her opportunity came when the gunner raised his head to sight in on the village. Sarah's shot was immediate and lethal, eliminating the primary threat. However, the remaining crew members continued setting up the weapon, forcing her to engage multiple targets in rapid succession. Her training and quick target acquisition proved crucial as she eliminated the entire machine gun team before they could open fire. Sarah's ammunition was running dangerously low, with only 8 rounds remaining in her magazine and 1 spare magazine in her equipment. Each shot needed to count as the battle continued to rage below. She could see that her precision fire was having a significant impact on insurgent morale, with many fighters seeking better cover rather than advancing aggressively. The sound of approaching helicopters began to echo through the mountains, providing hope that air support was finally arriving. However, Sarah noticed movement that made her blood run cold. Several insurgents were retreating toward a building where civilians had taken shelter. If they reached that location, they could use hostages to complicate any airstrikes. Sarah made a critical decision to prioritize protecting the civilian shelter over conserving ammunition. She began engaging the retreating insurgents, knowing that each shot brought her closer to running out of rounds entirely. Her shooting had become instinctive, the rifle feeling natural in her hands as she transitioned from medic to sniper with deadly effectiveness. The distinctive sound of Apache attack helicopters grew louder as 2 aircraft appeared over the ridgeline, their weapon systems immediately engaging the scattered insurgent forces. Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her as she watched the helicopter's 30mm chain guns tear through enemy positions that had been causing problems for the village defenders. However, her relief was short-lived. The insurgents, who had been moving toward the civilian shelter, had reached their destination and were now using women and children as human shields. The Apache pilots couldn't engage without risking massive civilian casualties, leaving Sarah as the only person positioned to eliminate the threats without endangering innocent lives. Through her scope, Sarah could see the terrified faces of children pressed against windows, while armed insurgents positioned themselves strategically to maximize their protection from airstrikes. The situation required precision shooting that went beyond anything she had attempted during the battle. These shots would need to be perfect, with 0 margin for error. Chen's voice, weak but determined, provided crucial guidance. Sarah, you need to take shots between the hostages. Wait for clear separation. Breathe control is everything now. His experience as a sniper was invaluable as Sarah prepared for the most challenging shots of her life. Sarah's first target was an insurgent who briefly exposed himself while repositioning near a window. The shot required threading the needle between 2 small children, demanding precision that seemed almost impossible under combat conditions. She controlled her breathing, steadied her aim, and fired. The shot was perfect, eliminating the threat without endangering any civilians. Morrison coordinated with the Apache pilots to ensure they understood the hostage situation and could provide support fire on targets that Sarah couldn't safely engage. The combination of air power and precision sniper fire was beginning to systematically eliminate the remaining insurgent forces throughout the village. Sarah continued engaging targets around the civilian shelter, each shot requiring intense concentration and perfect execution. Her medical background, with its emphasis on steady hands and precise movements, was proving invaluable in this unexpected role. The irony wasn't lost on her that skills developed to save lives were now being used to take them. The psychological toll of the extended combat was beginning to affect Sarah, but she forced herself to maintain focus. Each successful shot meant innocent lives saved, and that knowledge helped her overcome the natural reluctance to kill. Her transformation from medic to sniper was complete, driven by necessity and the desire to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. As Sarah eliminated the last insurgent near the civilian shelter, she realized her ammunition was completely exhausted. She had fired every round with deadly accuracy, achieving a level of precision shooting that would have impressed even veteran snipers. The immediate threat to the village was neutralized, but the battle wasn't over yet. The Apache helicopters continued their systematic destruction of remaining insurgent positions throughout the valley. Sarah watched through her scope as enemy fighters who had survived the ground battle were methodically eliminated by air power. The coordinated assault that had threatened to overrun the village was collapsing completely. Chen managed a weak smile as he observed the results of Sarah's shooting. 23 confirmed kills in your first sniper engagement. That's going to be a record that stands for a long time. His professional assessment was delivered with genuine admiration for what she had accomplished under impossible circumstances. Morrison began coordinating medical evacuation for Chen while establishing communication with the village defenders to assess their casualties and supply needs. The immediate crisis was over, but the aftermath would require careful management to ensure no insurgent forces remained in the area. Sarah found herself staring at the rifle that had become an extension of herself during the battle. The weapon that had felt foreign and uncomfortable just hours earlier now seemed familiar in her hands. She had discovered capabilities within herself that she never knew existed, transforming from a life-saving medic into a life-taking sniper when circumstances demanded it. The sound of approaching medical evacuation helicopters signaled that Chen would soon receive the advanced medical care his injuries required. Sarah prepared her medical equipment to ensure his condition remained stable during transport, returning to her primary role as the team's medic now that the immediate combat threat had ended. 3 weeks later, Sarah stood in the briefing room at Naval Special Warfare Command, facing a panel of senior officers who were still trying to process the extraordinary events that had unfolded on Hill 437. The official after-action report documented her transition from medic to sniper as one of the most remarkable combat performances in recent Navy SEAL history. Admiral Richardson, the commanding officer, reviewed the documentation one more time before addressing Sarah directly. Hospital Corpsman Martinez, your actions during the village engagement saved an estimated 47 civilian lives and prevented valuable intelligence assets from falling into enemy hands. The precision of your shooting under combat conditions was exceptional by any standard. The room was filled with senior SEAL team leaders, many of whom had decades of combat experience. Their respect for what Sarah had accomplished was evident in their expressions as they listened to the detailed account of her 23 confirmed kills during her first sniper engagement. The numbers were impressive, but the circumstances made them truly extraordinary. Chen, his arm still in a sling but recovering well, provided additional testimony about Sarah's performance. Sir, I've been a designated marksman for 8 years, and I've never seen anyone adapt to precision shooting that quickly under combat stress. Her medical training in steady hands and crisis management translated perfectly to sniper work. Sarah reflected on how the experience had changed her perspective on military service. She had joined the Navy to save lives through medical care, never imagining she would become lethal with a sniper rifle. The psychological processing of taking lives, even enemy combatants threatening civilians, remained challenging despite the clear justification for her actions. Morrison stepped forward to provide his assessment as team leader. Admiral, Corpsman Martinez displayed exceptional courage and adaptability under extreme circumstances. When our primary sniper was wounded, she immediately stepped into an unfamiliar role and performed beyond all expectations. Her actions were decisive in preventing a massacre. The official recognition came in the form of a Bronze Star Medal with V device for valor, acknowledging Sarah's heroic actions during the engagement. However, the real recognition came from her fellow SEALs, who had witnessed her transformation and understood the significance of what she had accomplished under pressure. Sarah's story quickly spread throughout the Special Operations community, becoming legendary among SEAL teams worldwide. The medic who became a sniper in seconds had demonstrated that exceptional individuals could adapt to any role when lives were at stake. Her example inspired others and reinforced the importance of cross-training in multiple combat disciplines. The psychological evaluation that followed her return to base revealed no significant trauma from the combat experience, though Sarah admitted to ongoing reflection about the moral complexities of her actions. Taking lives to save lives created philosophical questions that couldn't be easily answered, but she remained confident in her decisions during the battle. 6 months after the engagement, Sarah received orders for advanced sniper training at the Naval Special Warfare Center. The Navy recognized her natural ability and wanted to develop her skills further. She would continue serving as a medic while adding precision shooting to her military capabilities. Chen, fully recovered from his injuries, became Sarah's primary instructor during sniper school. The partnership between the veteran marksman and the newly recognized sniper was remarkable, with Chen providing technical expertise, while Sarah brought fresh perspectives to precision shooting techniques. Sarah's parents attended her graduation from sniper school, still struggling to understand how their daughter, who had wanted to save lives, had become one of the Navy's most promising precision shooters. Sarah explained that both roles served the same ultimate purpose: protecting innocent people from those who would do them harm. The village that Sarah had helped save sent a delegation to thank her personally for her actions. Meeting the children whose lives she had protected provided closure and reinforced her belief that her actions during the battle had been justified and necessary. Their gratitude made the psychological burden of taking lives easier to bear. Admiral Richardson's final words to Sarah summarized the impact of her extraordinary day. Corman Martinez, "You've shown that exceptional individuals can rise to any challenge when circumstances demand it. Your story will be remembered as long as the SEALs exist. You went from medic to sniper in seconds, and in doing so, you saved dozens of innocent lives. That's a day the SEALs will never forget." Today, Sarah continues serving with distinction, carrying both medical supplies and precision rifles on her missions. Her unique combination of life-saving and life-taking skills makes her one of the most versatile operators in the SEAL community. The medic who became a sniper in seconds had found her true calling, protecting others through whatever means necessary.